Hi everyone, welcome back to Watch Hags. My name's Ken.
I'm David.
And behind the camera as always, our buddy Wilson. Today, we're starting a new series we're going to call Fun with Straps. I think this is a very interesting part of the whole watch collecting activity, and straps really provide us a very interesting way to diversify our collection, add new looks, and so on. So David, to kick us off, you're probably the hag with the most straps, if I can say that. Tell us a little bit about what's driving you.
What really drives me and constantly changing up the look of my watches is just the sheer amount of variety that you have out there for straps. Whether you want to get something from the actual brand, or if you want to go to a third-party independent dealer, or if you want to go to having something completely customized to your exact wrist. That level of flexibility I find to be the highest value when it comes to completely changing the look, the feel of a watch without buying a new watch. And again, that to me has always been the driver. Now, I would say that from the aesthetic standpoint, it's really almost limitless of how you compare a strap with the watch. And it's amazing how different it looks and how different it feels. And typically, when I make those decisions, I like to think about how do I want to wear the watch? Meaning, am I going to keep that watch strictly for more formal, wearing it to work, or do I want to have more flexibility in the type of climate? Like here and where we are, it is quite warm, and so you may not want to have a thick leather strap all year long. You may want to have something like nylon or fabric so that it is more cool on the wrist. And so the sheer amount of flexibility that you have with choosing an aftermarket strap really keeps me constantly collecting, much to the dismay of my wife, of how much I'm spending on straps. But again, I would say she won't be as mad if I'm buying a new strap versus a new watch.
With straps, there's just so many things to consider. So over the next few episodes, we're going to spend some time talking a bit about what we think about straps, how we think about it, what we recommend when you're looking at straps. So for this first episode, Dave's going to talk you through the different kind of straps that are available to you in terms of design, construction, materials. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about matching as well too in this first episode. What kind of strap you choose to bring out the best in your watch.
So when it comes to selecting a strap to change your watch, we have some major categories I wanted to talk about today. I think most people are aware of leather straps, and we have a few here. Starting from this side, you have a alligator strap, kind of gives it a more of a formal look. To this far side here, you have this vintage black leather strap that gives it a more rugged look to something that's more very classic that you see in this tan camel leather you see here. And then if you want something a little bit more sporty, more weather resistant and more fun, you can always change to what you see here in this rubber strap, which is a vulcanized rubber. And for flexibility in size and coloring, and also a high comfort, you can go with a nylon NATO strap that you see here on the Omega. So the choices are rather unlimited, and depending on the occasion, depending on the style of the watch, the colors, we can get into a little bit more detail on how we think are some best practices that you can adopt to select a good strap for your watch. All right, now let's take a look at what I think is probably one of the easiest options to have, which is a nylon NATO strap. And this strap design has been around now for close to 40 years. And one of the reasons why it's so popular is that it is easy to install. It has added security so that if you lose one pin, you don't drop the watch. But then you have so many different colors and textures that you can choose from. There's no wonder why this is one of the most popular options for an aftermarket strap. Most people, when they look at the NATO, oftentimes people may be confused on how it's installed. And the main idea is that you have a strap that goes to both sides of the watch case. And by design, it allows a lot of reliability to where if one of the pins were to come loose, the strap still stays on the watch and you don't lose your watch. And so, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You feed the long end through both sides, and then the short end, just like that. And it gives you a lot of stability And then, like I said, a lot of choices in the color and the styles that you can accessorize your watch with. Now here, it was quite simple as far as matching a nice blue shade to what you see in the watch here.
And you know, David, I think one of the nice things about NATO is firstly, it's number one, very easy to change. You don't have to remove the pins. It's the only strap that you can do that with. So no risk of damaging your watch, but also very quick to do the change. It's now coming in different types of materials, including leather as well, to give you another whole different dimension of options. And as you mentioned before, like the different colorings to represent where you're from and so on, many NATOs also come with these type of designs with the stripes up and down here. And it just adds so many more possibilities of color matching and being a little bit more playful in your designs.
Now let's talk about how to match a strap to your particular watch. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule, but some best practices that the Hags have adopted over time that allows us to really play with not only the dial color, but also the shape of the case itself, depending on the occasion. So let's starting with this one here. The first thing I'm going to do is we're going to shift from a NATO, and I'm going to see how leather looks on this watch. And now we see here, obviously, a white dial, some blue in the indices, a stainless steel case. And we already knew that the blue NATO looks pretty good. So how does a blue leather look on this watch? And to me, I think it looks quite nice. But then it also makes it look a little bit more formal, as if you can wear it with your suit and go to the office. So this is kind of like a no-brainer. Easy, matching the blue against the blue you see in the dial. Now, we also have some other options that I think also really call out the overall aesthetics. And so you have a stainless steel case. So how about let's go with something in gray to kind of pick up on the steel. Now, interesting here is, even though it's the same material as far as leather, now it looks more like a weekend watch because of the shade of gray that's being used here. And then one more, just to see what else we can do, is looking at matching the color of the dial to the stitching in the strap itself. And once again, completely transforming the look of this watch altogether. Now, another way to match a strap to what you see in the dial is pick up on some subtle colors. So for example, in this Breitling here, it's a white dial, it's a titanium gray case, but you have this little red seconds hand on the stopwatch that I want to try to call out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the red, and I'm going to add in a strap with a fair amount of red. That really changes the look entirely. The red stitching, the red edge paint on the strap itself, really drawing your eyes now to not just the dial, but the overall package of this red complementing that small bit of red you see there.
And David, just to reinforce this golden rule that you've just shared here, try to match the color of the strap to something that's going on in the dial. And this navy timing here is a very interesting one to look at because there's quite a lot going on in the dial. Why this particular tan strap goes so well and pops so nicely with this dial is because it matches nicely the color of the patinaed loom that you already see on the strap. Because just to illustrate, if you were to say, well, actually brown should work very nicely with this strap too, but we were to pop a darker brown here, it doesn't match so well.
It really doesn't do the watch justice.
Yes, something as simple as that, right? And then you take this particular dial, there's a lot of blue going on, and you pop a blue strap here, and it just pops, right? It just picks out nicely the blue in the dial. And just like with your Omega, it suddenly converts this from a very more casual vibe to something that will pass basically even in the office, very formal.
Looks great. Now let's talk about sizing the strap to the watch that you have. And so what we're now talking about is beyond just how large is your wrist and for the right strap to fit it, but then also the right strap to fit the actual case of the watch. Now what I mean by that is, as you'll see here on the right side, we have a smaller case, King Seiko. The overall design of this is something more of the traditional dress watch size of about 35 millimeter across, and the overall height less than probably 46 or 45 millimeters. So this type of case tends to look a lot better with a thinner strap. And the reason is, It's something that I've noticed when I've tried to pair straps to watches is the thickness of the actual lug. And so what I'm going to do here is just something that I've done over quite some time is when I look at the thickness of the lug, right now it's about 4 millimeters. So on a 4 millimeter lug, you certainly don't want to have a 4 millimeter strap. It becomes now a little overwhelming in the thickness of the strap compared to the actual case. But in this pairing here, you have a 4 millimeter lug, but now you have a strap that's only about 2.5 millimeters. So in my opinion, a very well proportioned thickness to the thickness of the actual case itself. And when it comes to the length, most straps that you'll see, you'll give you two numbers to look at. The larger number typically is this length here, around 110 to 120 millimeters, and then the short length here, ranging anywhere from 65 to 70, or sometimes even longer, depending on the type of strap that is being made. So this is some key things to look for when you're looking for a strap for a smaller case watch. Now let's look at a case size that's a little bit more contemporary, as you see here in this Omega. And so on this Omega, it actually measures just over 40 millimeters from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, not including the crowns. And the lug width is a very respectable 20 millimeter lug width, which gives you many, many options to choose from. Now here, this combination of this watch and the straps that I have paired with it work very well beyond just color. Now we're looking at the case. Now we're looking at the thickness of the case. And here we're measuring about almost a 5 millimeter thickness at the lugs here. And so with that, you can now accompany much thicker straps that will look well and will look well proportioned against this overall size. And again, when you look at the length, a very standard, about 120 millimeters on the length on here, and about 60-65 on the length of the short side. Now lastly, one thing to always remember is when you're looking at a strap for your watch, I personally always like to match the original buckle from the manufacturer. So to do that, let me switch over here to this blue one, because on this blue one, I'm actually using a buckle that came from Omega. And so here, when you look at straps and the company buckle, not only you want to pay attention to the 20 millimeters you have on this side that attaches to the watch, but then also the width of the buckle here. And in this example, it's actually an 18 millimeter buckle.
And you know, David, I think you made three very, very good points around the dimensions of a strap. When you go out and buy something ready to wear, you often get the measurement of the lug width, but you may not get the thickness and the buckle width. And if you have the original watch buckle, which you should always try to preserve, this is pretty important. I think these are mistakes that I've made where the lug width fits, but the buckle width was incorrect, so I couldn't use the original buckle. And this point that you made, David, about the thickness, like on this watch, because it's a big watch, the big thickness makes it just look that much nicer. And functionally, it's also because it's heavier, it's good to have a big, strong strap like that. Whereas if you were to put it on this watch here, it just overwhelms it, right? And it needs a more delicate strap that you see on this one.
And one last thing to consider is the overall length of the strap to fit your wrist. So in my wrist, I'm about 170 millimeters. And so it's typically, I think most strap makers will consider that either just right at the standard length or maybe a short length. And so when we talk about the lengths, I just want to emphasize again, we're talking about the combined length of the short piece and the long piece. And when you buy them, your standard long length is 115 millimeters and your standard short length is 75 millimeters. But then there is a little bit of adjustment there and differences between the manufacturers. So these are some key links you want to pay attention to when you're trying to find a strap to fit your watch, but also more importantly, that fits your wrist very well.
And if you have a wrist that deviates from David's 170, then you should consider buying a strap which is in the long size. And if yours is less than that, then something in the short size. And some makers will produce straps of different lengths when you buy them off the rack. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us today. I hope our first episode on fun with straps has got you excited about the area and has started your journey very nicely into this whole new world of watch collecting. The next episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about the mechanics of changing a strap and just how easy it is. So please join us for that one. We'd like to know what you think as always, so don't forget to leave us your comments and thoughts. Smash the like and subscribe button and let us know what you'd like to see in a future episode. Until next time, may time be on your side with Watch Hags.
Thanks for watching.